Okay, so today we're going to talk about antimicrobial products and technologies, okay? Let's start with some definitions. Well, we have different definitions here that I would like you to understand as much as you can, okay? Because these may change among countries. So make sure which terminology for some type of situations, and I'm going to state which ones you use for your country, because the definitions change a little, right? But for cleaning, this one doesn't change, okay? Cleaning is the physical removal of organic material and also, why not, microbial load on that surface, okay? If you perform a good cleaning procedure, you're going to be able to remove up to 80% of the microbial load on that surface. Okay, so this is why cleaning is so important. Sometimes we always thinking about going to a customer and apply a antimicrobial product, but this step is very crucial for you to perform a good service. It can be done either by your customer, okay, and we need sometimes to teach them how to do it depending on their behavior. Remember, avoiding cross-contamination is one way of teaching them how to do it. Or in some specific protocols that we are going to start talking about tomorrow, TNI is going to also do some cleaning procedures. But remember, we are not a cleaning company. So in specific protocols, we can do some cleaning as well, but not for all of them. You may choose to have a cleaning company that you trust to recommend a customer or to do some work together, okay? Disinfection. Disinfection means that you're going to decrease, here I'm gonna say vegetative form of bacterial form or even microorganisms form from the surface. The goal is to reduce to zero here, okay? The vegetative form is a free living form. Remember that we talked about yesterday, you know, that bacteria, that mold is like eating, multiplying, uh, you know, doing all the daily activities they like to do. Okay, this is the vegetative form, which is easier to kill than the bacterial spores. Remember that resistant form that they form when they feel like stress. Yes, so these ones are going to be difficult. During disinfection, your goal is to reduce maybe to zero here, the vegetative form, but spores you may reduce or you may not reduce, but it's not the main goal of this procedure, okay? Sterilization, yes, the goal here is go down to zero in terms of vegetative form and spores, okay? You need to go to zero. As truly Nolen, we are not going to work with sterilization. I will talk about this later, but basically this is for instruments, utensils or something that the hospital or cleaning rooms or even food processing plants will need. So they will use this type of methodology for them. At Truly Nolen, we are going to focus on hard surfaces. So we are not going to use any type of sterilizer or any type of product that will sterilize the surfaces, okay? This is for them to use. There are some methodologies they use. The commonest one is by applying heat, humid heat to the material, and they're going to sterilize the material. Some material, they cannot be, they are very sensitive to heat. So sometimes they use irradiation or even some type of chemical products. Those chemical products usually are more toxic, more corrosive, and more dangerous. These ones we are not going to be working with, okay? So I will not present here as the active ingredients that we use at Truly Nolen. And most of the times we are going to talk about sanitization. And this is where things can change according to the country. Sometimes you're going to see sanitization as the entire procedure of reducing the microbial load to safe levels. So it can include the removal of organic material, removal of microbial loads, and also apply an antimicrobial product afterwards. In other countries, it means that you're going to use a product that will reduce microorganisms, but not as much as a disinfectant would, okay? Just check the terminology in your country. For example, in Brazil, it's very common for you to for everyone to use sanitization, but all the products that you're gonna see for hard surfaces that are registered for that, you're gonna see as disinfectants. So this is as confusing as it can be. But just remember, this is a procedure for you to reduce microbial loads to safe levels, and it's going to depend on the facility and the risk factors that you're gonna see, okay? In an ICU unit, you do not want to leave any pathogen behind, but remember, in a residency, maybe after our services, you're going to leave, not maybe, but all the time you're going to leave something behind, and this is okay. And also we have this terminology, the deodorizers, which are odor eliminators. These products here, they will not mask odors. So it's not like you're applying a perfume into the air. This is something different. A deodorizer is an odor eliminator, which means going to fight or is going to break down the odor molecules, and you're going to get rid of the odors. Again, depending on the country, you're going to see in the legislation that deodorizers can be odor eliminators, or they can only prevent odors. It depends on your country. But anyways, you can both reduce odors and break down the molecules. And for that, usually I'm going to talk about oxidizers, disinfectants that work as oxidizers in the following slides, okay? And these ones will work better for odors usually, but you need to talk to the manufacturer. It has to be stated on the label. Or some of them will be microbiostatic, which means that it's going to it doesn't kill, but it can prevent odors, okay? So for example, if I prevent mold colonies in that environment, it means that we will not experience mold odor in that environment, okay? Any questions here? Is everything okay? Thumbs up, good. Just to make it clear for you about the efficacy, let's say we are going to talk about, in most of the countries, okay, again, a sanitizer. A sanitizer, roughly saying, is going to reduce the number of pathogens on that surface up to 99.9%. And they call this a 3-log reduction. You're gonna say, oh my God, 99.9% is like almost 100%. It is almost, but when it comes to the microbial world, let's see how it can behave. For example, if you start with 1,000,000 CFU, remember, colony forming units here, which is the estimative of the number of bacteria or fungi on that sample. Let's say this is a petri dish, this beautiful art that I made for you, very precise. Let's say that we have a 1,000,000 CFU here, and you apply a sanitizer. It's going to be a 99.9 reduction. After their service, you still have 1,000 CFU in that environment. So this could be a lot when it comes to a hospital facility or a food processing plant, okay? And we have another definition here that will work for most of the countries, which is a disinfectant. This one is going to reduce 99.999% or a 5-log reduction, okay? Again, if you start with 1,000,000, you're gonna be down to 10 CFU. See, there is a difference here. And maybe you're going to want to choose for a food processing plant, for a restaurant, you want to choose a disinfectant and not a sanitizer. Just for this to get even More fun for you. The same product, depending on the active ingredient, can work either as a disinfectant or a sanitizer. Sometimes just by increasing the concentration and the contact time of that antimicrobial product, it can be a sanitizer or a disinfectant, depending on the terminology that you're going to use in a country. And a lot of times you're going to see only disinfectant as the terminology. But one thing that I would like you to understand is not only about the names here, but there are different levels of disinfection or microbial reduction in that environment. And you're going to choose accordingly to the risk that you see in that industry. Okay? Thumbs up? Okay. And how to choose? Well, first, as I said, you need to understand the risk you have in that area. That's one thing for you to consider when you're choosing a antimicrobial product. Sometimes, just to make it easier, I will say disinfectants, but you can consider that it's either a sanitizer or disinfectant, okay? But factors to consider. It has to be a broad spectrum of action. Okay, so it's different from pest control, where we have a product for cockroaches and a different one for rodents and termites and so on. Okay, so it's a little bit different. It can be easier in some points because you can use the same product sometimes for a lot of types of pathogens. Okay, enveloped viruses, non-enveloped viruses, bacteria, gram-positive, gram-negative, fungal spores, and so on, okay? You had to consider the stock solution and the diluted solution shelf life. So in your business plan, you're gonna say, okay, if I choose this antimicrobial product, how long the stock solution is going to last? Some of them will last like months, and some of them will last years, okay, up to 2 years, for example. And the same thing for the diluted solution, okay? You need to consider the shelf life. Sometimes you can dilute that product and use a lot of times it's very stable, and others, once you dilute it, you need to use it right away and you throw it out all the remaining solution that you have, okay? It's very important because it can lose the efficacy. If you have to consider if it's going to damage or interact with material in your facility and surfaces, okay? So if you go to a resort, a 5-star resort, you want to choose a product that is not going to damage any type of surface, of course. Well, we do not want to damage any type of surface, but I'm saying that these are sensitive areas. If you go to a hotel bedroom, you have a lot of types of fabrics. Sometimes they are natural dyeing, or you have silk, you have mattresses, you have a lot of things going on in a hotel bedroom. So you need to consider that before going to your customer. And you need to choose the one that is less toxic as possible according to your needs. Okay, this is one thing that is very important for me that you learn here. Because you can choose to say, okay, I'm going to choose the one that kills everything. But is that one toxic? Do you need to use for coronavirus, for example? Maybe not. Maybe I can choose a different one. As I like to say, and you have this Brazilian saying, is that you don't want to kill a fly with a bullet. Okay, you need to find the appropriate product, because the tricky part when it comes to microbial control is that the active ingredients, they usually have a broad spectrum of action. So you want to use the same product all the time for all types of customers. Let's choose the right one for each one, okay? Type of service that you're going to provide. If it has a fast action, some products, they need only like 30 seconds to be effective on that surface, and in others they need like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or even more to be effective. So you need to consider that, and you need to respect that contact time. If it has a residual effects or no residues. Okay, so just I have a question here from Greg. Does sanitizing kills viruses? Yes, you need to choose the right product. Okay, for coronavirus, The products that I'm going to bring here, the active ingredients, they will work very easily. If you have a norovirus, for example, that one, remember, that is kind of tough to kill, you need to choose the right active ingredients. Not all of them will work for all types of viruses. I will talk about this in a minute, okay? Does that answer your question? I guess so. Let's move on. So far, okay, good, thank you. Let me know if I can answer until the end of this training, okay? So you have to consider if you want something that is going to leave a residual effect. For example, the antimicrobial coatings that we were talking about yesterday. Sometimes, you want to prevent mold to reoccur in that area because it's a high risk area with a lot of moisture and everything. So it makes sense for you to find a product that you can apply afterwards in order to prevent mold to come back. But sometimes you want to choose something that will not leave residues. For example, if you go to a daycare center, you do not want to expose kids to chemicals without, if it is not necessary. So you may choose one product for toys that will not leave any residue on the surface and it's going to be safe for them. What should you ask your manufacturer? You need to ask for registration as you do for any type of pesticide that you use. You need to be registered. Once it is registered, please pay attention to the type of facility and surface that it is registered for. Okay, so if it is registered for hospitals, please just only use in a hospital or healthcare facilities. Okay, if it's registered for the food industry, please only use if you are using in a food processing plant or a restaurant, for example. So you need to choose the ones that register for that, because if you don't, in a lot of countries around the world, it happens in Brazil, it happens in Europe, it helps in a lot of countries around the world. If you do not follow the registration, this is a violation, a law violation. Okay, so you can have even liability issues later in your life. And I can tell with all this coronavirus pandemic, this even happened in Brazil. When I say that it happened in Brazil, it can happen everywhere, okay? Because there is not so many liability issues, but it happens in Brazil. One competitor could see that the other was using a food grading disinfectant in an office building, and they talked to the health ministry. It went to the news, so the company had to explain themselves and say, oh, okay, you do not want to do that or go through this situation because you can choose from so many antimicrobial products in your country. So make sure you use for the facility that it's meant for. Surfaces. I have seen also, you're gonna see the registration, for example, in the hospital industry from non-critical articles, which means that they will come in contact with intact skin or no contact whatsoever. So we're going to talk also about walls and other type of hard surfaces. This is the one for the the health industry that you wanted to apply. That's the one that you're going to choose. Other types of products, this is for the hospital to use, okay? There is no need to sterilize or anything, but you need to choose a good disinfectant for it. Semi-critical articles, this one will come in contact with mucous membranes, eyes, nose, your, mouth, and so on. So they need a high level disinfection. This is for the hospital to do it, okay? You do not need to choose a product for this type of articles. This is not for truly knowledge to apply. If it is for semi-critical articles, this is not for us to apply on hard surfaces, okay? Because it's not registered for that type of surface. Critical articles, this one will be in contact with organs, injured tissues during surgeries and everything. These ones will need sterilization. Again, just the hospital is going to do their work. This is not for us to use a one of those products for hard surfaces because they are usually more corrosive, they are more toxic as well. Okay, and the same works for food contact surfaces. You need to ask the company for the SDS, the safety data sheet, and also the label. And Maria, you're there. You're going to be proud of me. You know, when Mariah says the label is the law, ta-da. Yes, the label is the law, okay? So follow the label, follow the SDS, all the technical information they provide you, and you're gonna be okay, all right? So there, you're gonna, yes, Mariah is there. We both, now we have two people watching you, okay? Two, me and Mariah. So please follow the label. There you're gonna find the formula, the target microorganisms. Usually you're gonna find that in the label or the SDS. The toxicity, including to animals, to plants, to aquatic life, and so on. First aid information, the PPEs or personal protective equipment that you need to use. And this is going to depend on the application mode, okay? If you're using wiping, well, you can use some type of PPE. But if you're like using a ULV cold fogger, well, you're gonna use a different one. It doesn't matter if you're using the same product, okay? The exposure is going to be very different depending not only on the active ingredients, but also how you apply that product, okay? And the mode of application needs to be stated on the label. And this is not easy to find in all countries. This is easier to find in Europe and the United States, for instance. EPA approved disinfectants, they usually say you are allowed to apply with electrostatic sprayer or ULV cold fogger. In other countries, sometimes this information is going to be difficult to find, but if not, please talk to the manufacturer. Respect the contact time is going to be stated on that. I'll say leave those surfaces wet for 10 minutes, 30 seconds, and so on. The concentration for each surface, for example, you're gonna see one concentration for food contact surface for the same antimicrobial products, but other type of concentration for hard surfaces. And all types of limitations you need to find in the technical material. If it's going to interact with organic material, which means that once you have too much dirt on that surface, it will the antimicrobial product will interact with that dirt and will lose efficacy. Okay, you need to understand if this is the case. If it's going to leave stains, if it is corrosive, if you need to understand if it's going to damage any electronics, any type of residues, warranties, and so on. And of course, you're gonna find the manufacturer's contact information. Please contact them and contact me. Of course, we can work together. About the target microorganisms, I think this is going to answer little bit more of your question, Greg, about how to choose. So you will find this table. It's going to be a complete table in your study guides, okay? It's the final pages. And I think that you should print that out or having this available all the time so you can understand if it's going to work or not. Again, a lot of information is going to be on the label. And there are some new technologies, some new inert ingredients, some new products that the manufacturers come up with. This is an overall idea. If it is registered and it says differently, okay, you can use, okay, no problem. So basically, if you go down, into this table, you're gonna see that enveloped viruses such as coronaviruses are the ones that are more susceptible to antimicrobial agents. I will be talking about those. Don't worry about those names right now. Just that these ones are going to be more susceptible. When you go down on the table, you're gonna see bacterial spores. I have some examples, Bacillus subtilis, which is important in the food industry and Clostridium. These are spore-forming bacteria. And if you want to fight spores, not all
Etiquette.
antimicrobial. You wanna say something or is that okay? Okay. So if you want to fight bacterial spores, not all of them are going to work. And here we have mycoplasma. This is a type of bacteria. It's going to be easy to kill, but it's not going to be part of our services very often. So don't worry about this right now. But remember, the gram-positive bacteria, such as Staphylococcus aureus, usually gonna find disinfectants being tested against this bacteria as a representative of gram-positive bacteria. Okay, it's impossible for manufacturers to test for all types of gram-positive bacteria. But once you know that it's going to work for this one, you may infer that it's going to work for other gram-positive bacteria, okay? Gram-negative bacteria, a little bit more difficult to inactivate. These are the examples that we talked about yesterday. One thing about them, when we talk about bacteria, I like that Armand yesterday told us, oh, I'm reading the label and here it's stated that this disinfectant is going to work against MRSA. Remember, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. This one can be harder to fight or to reduce the numbers. So whenever you have this problem, even if that product is tested for Staphylococcus aureus, you need to make sure that it's going to work against MRSA as well. Okay. If not, you need to use another formula, another product. If you have problems with Mycobacterium, the main one is going to be tuberculosis that causes that respiratory disease called tuberculosis. So if you have problem with that one, this one is going to be more difficult to inactivate. And also the protocol is different, okay, from the ones that we are going to talk about tomorrow. Please contact me, okay? I'm a very nice person. I'm here to help. Any type of spore forming bacteria, bacillus, and also Clostridium. In the health industry and the food industry, maybe you're going to face some type of situation where spore forming bacteria are going to be at bigger concern. Let's talk, okay? Call me, I'll be available, text me. Fungal spores are a little bit more difficult to fight than bacteria, as you can see here. The main ones that you're going to see products being tested against it are going to be this one, Trichophyton mentagrophytes, which causes the mycosis, okay? And as an yeast representative, usually Candida, especially Candida albicans, and as a fungi, Aspergillus species. These are the main ones that you're gonna read on the label, okay? So if you have a mold problem and you see that this product has been tested against Aspergillus, it's going to be likely that it's going to work for other types of species, okay? Mold species. This is something for you to remember. After fungal spores and yeasts, we have the non-enveloped viruses. Mm. You're going to see usually on the label or SDS or any technical documents they send you, if it is tested against mouse norovirus, it means that it's going to work for the human norovirus. Okay, if it is tested against feline calicivirus, sorry about that, it's going to work for human norovirus as well. The human norovirus is a little bit difficult in terms of to test in terms of the laboratory methodology that you need to use. So this is why the manufacturers choose to test against other types, okay, of viruses. So, but that's okay. If you read this on the label or STS, it means that it's going to work against human norovirus and it's going to work against a lot of non-enveloped viruses because norovirus is one virus that is not easy to inactivate. And you're also gonna see some being tested against rhinovirus and adenovirus. This one will cause respiratory symptoms, you know, sneezing, all those symptoms. As I said, mycobacterium, not all the products are going to work against it, and the protocol changed. So call me, but you see, it's very difficult to kill, and bacterial spores are going to be the toughest one to kill. Okay. So this is one of the reasons why I brought so many bacterial species and fungal species yesterday. Is also for you to get used to it because you're gonna read this on the label or any type of technical material. In terms of fungi, if you face any case of outbreak that your customer says, okay, I have problems with Histoplasma capsularum and Cryptococcus neoformans, you need to call me as well, okay? Sometimes your customer, and a lot of times they will not know, but once you have any problems and we will have the combined protocols for rodents, pigeons, and so on later, and I will be talking about products. But if you face right now any type of contamination outbreaks in terms of rodent feces, as I say, okay, I need to clean or disinfect the area, please call me. Bats and pigeons feces as well, okay? Because these fungi here, they are more difficult to kill. Bad news is almost, it's very difficult to find one manufacturer that is going to test against those fungus here,
Yes.
okay? Good here, is everything okay? Yep. So this is not going to be easy to find one manufacturer to actually test for Histoplasma or Cryptococcus. So, but don't worry, we will have a protocol for them. Questions here about the target microorganisms? You will have this information. I know there's a lot of names today, so you're gonna have all this information in the study guide. As I said, if you want to print it out, only the table, I think is going to help you a lot in your daily activities, daily services. Let's go for a practical example. I like to give this example, not because I want you guys to use a cold fogger to apply bleach or electrostatic sprayer or do any type of special application with bleach, because we know that it damages surfaces, right? And it's also relatively toxic for you to use for that type of application. So it's not because I want you to use during your services, but because everyone has had contact with bleach before in our lives. Okay, everyone has seen it, everyone has experienced it, everyone knows the odor and everything. That's why I bring the practical example here. But once you understand bleach, the only questions you need to ask yourself before choosing a product, you will do the same for all types of disinfectants or sanitizers that you're gonna use in the future. Okay, so bleach, it comes in this opaque container. Does anyone know why it comes in this opaque container here? Any ideas? Thoughts? Can write in the chat. Please, one at a time. Okay, sunlight evaporates. That's Roxana's answer. Thank you, Roxana. Yeah, it's very sensitive to sunlight, to light, not only sunlight, but to light. So it has to come in this opaque container. And what do we do when it arrives at home and say, okay, I'm gonna dilute this bleach because it has a dilution. If you read, it's not ready to use, usually have to dilute bleach. And people like to apply without dilution, okay? I have seen this a lot of times before. It's not going to be more effective, to be honest. So you need to dilute according to the manufacturer's instructions. And once he arrives at home and say, okay, I'm going to dilute this bleach and I'm going to put this into my, empty water bottle, that one that you want to reuse. So you just dilute it and you put in that. Yes, yes. And bleach is going to be very sensitive to light. It's going to lose efficacy. So you're just doing something that is not meant to be, okay? Not following the label. The PPEs, the personal protective equipment, which ones should I use? Well, if we're talking about a household products and that we are doing at home, you know that you're gonna find only gloves for you to apply bleach. Although, if it was for me, I would use respirators and goggles because the chlorine gas, I guess that everyone has experienced this, is very irritating. I am very allergic and sensitive person. So that's why I do not use, for example, in my house. Okay, I think it's way too irritating. The contact time for bleach to be effective to kill the number of pathogens that you want is going to range from 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the manufacturer and the application. And I can see people, I'm using bleach. I'm not diluting. I'm just going to throw on the floor. I'm going to brush it and I'm going to rinse it. You don't even wait it 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Why? It's not effective if you do it like this, okay? And it does have a short storage time, especially if you dilute the solution. If you dilute it, it's ready to use that one, and you dispose the rest of the solution, okay? It's not really stable for you to keep storage the solution. Sorry, guys. And for hard surfaces, what type of concentration going to use? You need to clean first, okay? Because this one is going to react with organic material and is going to lose efficacy. And I see this too. Let's clean this floor. It's all dirty. I'm going to just throw some bleach in there. I'm going to, brush it or do something. I'm going to rinse it out. It was dirty. You didn't wait for the contact time. You didn't respect the concentration. I have seen people, including in our customers, doing this. So you can use the best product in the market. If you do not use correctly, you're gonna have problem. Okay. And the concentration can range from 500 ppm, for example, up to 5,000 ppm for hard surfaces, depending on the application. But if you go to a food processing plant, can I use bleach or sodium hypochlorite? Not bleach, but sodium hypochlorite to disinfect the food equipment? Yes, the ones that are registered for it. Okay, why is that? Well, because it needs to be stated on the label that you can use for food contact surfaces. Some manufacturers, maybe they will add some inert ingredients that can contaminate. We're not talking about the active ingredients, but other ingredients that can contaminate the food afterwards. So without rinsing it, in a lot of countries, you can use up to 200 ppm. It depends on the legislation. Always check the legislation for your country. But yeah, see, the concentration is very low for food contact surface. I can go up to a 5,000 ppm for hard surfaces. Food contact surfaces only 200 ppm. And some disinfectants or sanitizers, they cannot be applied on food contact surface. Make sure you use as it is stated. In post-harvest, 50 ppm. See, the concentration is going to be very low. So in food processing plants, they actually can apply on the top of a lettuce or watermelon and whatever, what type of food. But this is that for them to apply, okay? Not for us. Never, 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 ever apply on the top of food, okay? During your services. And you go to your house and you bought the lettuce. You go to your house, you need to clean because you need to remove all the organic material. You want to reduce the microbial load, remember, just by removing it. And then you disinfect, and you can apply up to 100 ppm of free chlorine in that solution. Okay, so see, different concentrations for each type of surfaces. And this is what you need to pay attention for all types of antimicrobial products. Are we good? Yes? Still alive? Chemical groups. I will bring you 4. You've been using them, so this is a lot of what I'm bringing here. I know that this is a revision for you, but it's always good to remember, okay? The ones that people used to like the most, they've been here for 100 years. So this is our well-known chemical groups, the quaternary ammonium compounds. One thing that I would like you to pay attention with when you choose one of those products is the generation that you're going to choose, okay? You have the first generation. The oldest one is the first generation. You're gonna find this big word, a lot of names when it comes to the ingredients, but you're gonna find maybe as a nickname or short name is going to be benzalkonium chlorides. This is the first generation. Or a big name, and you're gonna see dimethyl and benzo as part of that words, okay? So this is the first generation. Whenever you read this, it's because this is the first one. And it does have this benzo group here. The second, again, you're gonna find this really big name, but you're also gonna find in between words or, or letters, ethyl benzo. Okay, so this is the second generation. The third generation is a blend between the first and the second generation. Okay, so you're gonna see more than one active ingredient, and they need to have these names here, usually, okay? The fourth generation, you're not gonna find that word benzyl anymore, okay? And this is a good thing for you not to find. You're usually gonna find octyl, distyl, and blends, but you're not gonna find this benzyl here. And this is good because it brings toxicity to the molecule, okay? Once you do not find that name in there, it means that you're going well in terms of toxicity. And the fifth generation, which is going to be a blend between the fourth and the first generation, okay? Why do we need to know all those generations? Well, because once you go over the generations here, you're gonna increase the antimicrobial activity, okay? We do have resistance or tolerance mechanism reported for the first generation. So please do not use this one, okay? It's not only more toxic, it doesn't have the same activity, and also it's going to be more corrosive, okay? Can damage surface easily. But if it is, this compound is not alone in that product, no problem, okay? I just do not want to use this product if it is alone. If we can choose, let's choose either the fourth generation or the fifth generation. The fourth generation is going to be it's going to be less toxic than even the fifth generation. The problem with that was it is more expensive. So that's why the manufacturers came up with the fifth generation, okay? Because they can decrease the concentration of the active ingredient. This can be cheaper. But the fourth and fifth generation, they will be more resistant to hard water, which means that a lot of times the product is not going to be ready for you to use. So you need to dilute it. And in a lot of cities around the world, you're gonna find that this high mineral content in the water. And the first generation, for example, is going to react with this water hardness and lose efficacy. So once you go over the generations, you're gonna see that this is going to be decreased. The fourth and fifth generation, usually you're gonna see stated on the label, resistant to hard water. So that's okay if you dilute it in this type of water, which is going to be tap water. And as I said, it's going to be it's going to decrease the toxicity, except for the fourth generation, that is very, very good in terms of toxicity. Okay, so when you're gonna choose either the fourth or the fifth generation. But we do have a lot of products with the first generation in the market. How do they work? Well, they will impact membranes and then the cell walls. So it's like an other, they impact the other wall of bacteria and fungal spores, and also they impact the envelope of enveloped viruses, okay? So they will impact that envelope. That's why they work for coronavirus, because as you remember, it is an enveloped virus. The advantages of it is that it readily will bind to microorganisms, so it's going to start the action very, very fast. Although sometimes you need to wait for 10 minutes for it to have the entire antimicrobial activity and be effective for that application. It's relatively stable. So a lot of times you're going to dilute it and the manufacturer is going to say, okay, you can use this diluted solution today and 6 months from today and so on. Okay. So it's kind of easy to storage as well. Usually not aggressive to surfaces. So if you go to a resort or any type of sensitive area where residencies, this one is less likely to damage, but just remember, all of these chemical ingredients that I'm going to bring here, they will be diluted into water. And sometimes water can damage surfaces, right? If you apply water into this natural uh, dyeing fabric, you can just damage all that dyeing in that fabric. Or if you apply on silk, any type of surfaces, so even water can damage, just pay attention to it when you're performing your job. Usually they're not, do not have like odor, or it can be low, so it's not aggressive. It is very stable, so it's going to be actually active in a lot of a broad pH range. No, it is non-volatile, so it's not going to expose people to any type of VOC, or remember the volatile organic compounds. Once you apply on the surface and it dries out, it's going to be okay. And it does have a high aqueous solubility, which means that it's going to be easy for you to apply and have a good coverage. Disadvantages, it can be susceptible to organic matter, so clean first, right? You always need to clean first, but this one is going to be very susceptible. It may be to hard water, as I explained before, and some detergent residues, which means that you need to rinse. After cleaning, you need to rinse, and it has to be a good job. Okay, you cannot have any detergent residues in there. One tricky things about quaternary ammonia compounds for the ones that are using it, have been using during your services, they may bind to wipes. What does that mean? Well, sometimes you're gonna choose, for example, I want to use a wipe for high touch points because I want to be very detailed in my service, and I advise you to do it whenever you can. So what it can happen is you're going to use this wipe and you apply a quaternary ammonium solution in there, and it can bind to wipes. So basically, when you wipe that surface, you're not transferring all the active ingredient that you wanted, because it is actually on that wipe. Okay, so you need to test before going to the field if you are going to use a wipe. How? You choose a wipe and you place that into the disinfectant solution. For example, 400 ppm quaternary ammonium solution. And you leave there for 10 minutes. You need to soak, leave in there for 10 minutes. Then you need to take that wipe out of the solution, okay? And what you're gonna do is to purchase locally, and this is very easy to find. Maybe your manufacturer is going to provide that for you. You can purchase a quaternary ammonium strips. These strips are going to, you soak into the solution, and it's going to tell you right away or a few seconds later the concentration of quaternary ammonium compounds in that solution. So if you know that you needed a 400 ppm solution, this strips is going to tell you, okay, this is still a 400 ppm solution. If it isn't, it means that you've lost to the wipe and you do not want to use the solution, is off label. Okay, in my opinion, it's better not to provide a service at all than using a wrong concentration. Why is that? Because by doing this, you can select some resistant bacteria or mold spores there, and you're gonna have a big problem later. Okay, you can reduce right now, but once they stay in there, they are going to multiply. And in the second time that you go to your customer, this product is not going to work anymore. Okay? Very important and very serious for you to use the right wipe. Usually, if you use a microfiber wipe, these effects of quaternary ammonium binding can be decreased. Okay, organic wipings, they are not really good. They wipe very readily to them. For example, cotton wipes and so on. So start with the microfibers, test it and see if you're okay. They are toxic to aquatic life. So yes, you can kill some fish in aquarium, in a small aquarium. Yes, you can. If you apply that directly into the water, of course, during the protocols, you're going to see that this is not something that we do at Nolen, and it has some persistence in the environment, so it's not really a green product. Usually, they do not work for non-enveloped viruses and bacterial spores. So you need to choose a different compound, unless it is stated on the label, as I said. This is an overall idea. Things can change a little, as I said, depending on the product. Biguanides, they will work in a similar way. They're very alike with quaternary ammonium compounds. That's why I like to bring them together. The commonest ones are going to be chlorhexidine and PHMB. PHMB is the one that I like the most. If you're going to choose these products, why is that? Because so far we do not have any type of resistance or tolerance mechanism reported for these active ingredients. Okay, so it's kind of newer when compared to quaternary ammonium compounds. So far we do not have that type of mechanism reported in the literature. So it's good for you to choose. The problem is a lot of times they are going to be a little bit more expensive than quaternary ammonium compounds, but they are going to do the same job, even better, in my opinion. Okay? They will work in a similar way. They will impact the membrane, cell walls, maybe the genetic material. They will work against enveloped viruses. The advantages, again, they are very stable as well. So sometimes you can just dilute the solution and can use all over again. But again, you need to read that. They do have a broad spectrum of action. They have low toxicity, low odor. They do not release any type of VOCs, high water solubility, so they are easy to apply. And as I said, PHMB, no resistance mechanisms reported so far. They will be, as quaternary ammonium compounds, they will be susceptible to organic material. So clean first, hard water, depending on the product and formula, yes. So make sure you dilute it in the right water. They will be susceptible to some detergent residues, so you need to rinse thoroughly before starting the disinfection. And usually they do not work for non-enveloped viruses and bacterial spores, okay? Unless it is stated on the label. Questions about quaternary ammonium compounds and biguanides? They are very similar, okay? I like biguanides a little bit better, as I said, but it can be a little bit more expensive. So in a lot of countries, you're gonna see them registered for food processing plants and food industry. Let's talk about the oxidizers. Now I'm going to bring two more groups, and they are going to work, they are different in terms of the chemistry, but they will work in a similar way, okay? The oxidizers, the halogen release compounds, the ones that we know very well is the sodium hypochlorite, which is, bleach, but you can have others in the markets, okay? Which ones? When we use bleach, we know that we can damage fabric, you can bleach fabric, and so on. This is because of the sodium. I don't know what's going on here, seriously. Okay, this is because of the hypochlorite ion here, okay? This one is going to be the one responsible for that. But what you really want when it comes to a bleach solution is the hypochlorous acids which is going to be the most effective one. This one is going to kill better and is not going to damage surfaces or be as corrosive. It doesn't going to have that bleach effect. So you can use on fibers, for example. This one, hypochlorous acid, is the one that you really want in that solution. And as a byproduct, you're also going to find chlorine dioxide, which is going to be more effective than, this ion hypochlorite that I said before. These one are the two ones that you want to look for, okay? So what the manufacturers did was to have in those hypochlorous acid and chlorine dioxide as active ingredients in that solution. So they got rid of the other ions in the bleach solution and got only the ones that they wanted, okay? They are very unstable, and this is the pH here. So this is how they can go up and down depending on the pH. So it's not that easy to stabilize either hypochlorous acid or chlorine dioxide. That's why you do not see that often. You're not like you're gonna see over the counter disinfectants with this product because they have a better technology, okay, in order to stabilize the product. So you want to go for these ones here. You will also have what we call, you also have this allergen releasing compound in powder. Sometimes they come as a tabs you can use as well. It is a chlorinated trisodium phosphate. That's okay for you to use it as long as it's registered for that environment, as I said. And we also have the organic chlorine. That's how we call sodium 3 or dichloroisocyanurate. It's this is the formula. And one thing about the organic chlorine is that it's going to is less susceptible to organic matter and releases a higher concentration of available chlorine when we compare to bleach, okay? For the ones that provide services for water tanks, we will have protocols for water tanks later at Nolen for everyone to do it. But for the ones who started the service already, this can be a good substitute for bleach. Sometimes a lot of people use bleach, but this one is going to be better, a good substitute for it, okay? And you can use in other types of applications as well. One good thing about oxidizers is that they will act in different sites, outside and inside the cell. So if one mechanism doesn't work, that's okay because they have others. They will damage the cell wall, the cell membrane, proteins, genetic material. They will impair the cell metabolism, which means that the cell is going to lose the activity and die. So they have a lot of mechanisms, which means that they have a broader spectrum of action than when compared to quaternary ammonium compounds and biguanides, okay? They can even be the sporicide depending on the concentration, the active ingredients, and also the contact time, okay? They are usually not that expensive. Hypochlorous acids, and they can be a little bit more. They leave no residues usually, and they are fast acting and not affected by water hardness usually, okay? This is an overall idea, as I said. Disadvantages, they are inactivated by organic matter, although, as I said, organic chlorine will be less susceptible. They are relatively toxic at high concentrations if we are talking about sodium hypochlorite, but this won't happen, for example, for hypochlorous acid. It's much less toxic. Again, some of them will damage fibers, discolor. They can be corrosive to metals and rubber. The effectiveness, they are not very stable. None of them will be very stable, usually not. That's why sometimes they actually sell those tabs because it's going to be more stable. But once they are in the solution, they will not be very stable, okay? So use the solution and then you throw it out. You dispose in the right manner, please, the rest of the solution. Questions about halogen releasing compounds? Are we okay? Okay, so let's talk about peroxygens. They will work in a similar way as the other ones that the previous group that I told you. The main ones are hydrogen peroxide. I know that a lot of you have been using this one. It's very effective. Peracetic acid is also very effective. And we also have potassium peroxymonosulfate, which is not that common. The commonest is going to be hydrogen peroxide and peracetic acid. They will attack just about everything. Sometimes if you combine hydrogen peroxide and peracetic acid, not you, but the manufacturer, okay, important to say that, they can even be deodorizers, okay? They can act for organic odors, the ones that come from organic material or, you know, molds or bacteria. I actually had two situations where I need to use a product that was good to disinfect and also to deodorize. One of the situation was in that office building. What happened was that one cat, everyone went to vacation, so it was closed. When they came back to the building, they went back to the building, they could find a cat that was dead inside the HVAC duct system. So you can only imagine how how the odor and also the bacterial contamination could be very high in that situation. So we decided to go with a product that was a blend between hydrogen peroxide and peracetic acid, because we knew that we'll fight bacteria and all fungi and viruses will fight very well for that situation. And also we could get rid of the odor that it was causing. And that's in that situation. Am I going to use in all types of situations? No, because it's usually very corrosive. So just for that, in the HVAC system, if you're allowed to apply in your country, then it is okay if you have this type of situation. But this is one-time application for this product, okay? And another time that I had the situation is that when one of our customers had sewage infiltration in the apartment. He was not very lucky. He was very upset because of all that odor and smell, and of course, microbial contamination. So for that situation, not only the customer needed to do a lot of renovation, okay, it's not about going there and apply. They had to substitute a lot of construction material, but we also applied the same blend on that customer, okay, to reduce smell, to reduce microbial contamination. So they are usually not affected by water hardness, and if you're talking about peracetic acid, it's going to be less affected by organic material. And also it's going to work better for biofilms. Okay, so in the food industry, they tend to like these products because if you leave just a little organic material behind and some little water, just a small amount of water, then you're gonna have microbial contamination and biofilm formation, remember? So they tend to like this for the food industry, although it is corrosive. They are usually also fast acting, and for the peracetic acid and hydrogen peroxide, they leave no residues. Usually the activity will not leave residues. So hydrogen peroxide is going to turn into water and oxygen, and peracetic acid into vinegar, water and oxygen, and then water and oxygen. So gonna be okay. So this may be a choice for you when you're talking about toys, if it is registered for that, okay? If it is stated on the label, you can apply on toys. Okay, you're good to go. Food, contact surfaces, and also air conditioning systems, as long as you're allowed to apply in your country, okay? Not all countries will let you do it. And depending on the concentration, they can damage some metals. They are not very stable usually. And the effectiveness is decreased by organic material. If we're talking about hydrogen peroxide, peracetic acid is linked to asthma, okay? Although afterwards they're going to release byproducts that are not going to be harmful, Once you're applying and those byproducts are the disinfectant is still there, it can be very irritating. Okay, it's very acid. If you open like a gallon of peracetic acid, you're gonna actually feel all that acid. You can see that it's irritating. Caution with catalyzed positive bacteria. I will not go into details unless you ask me to do it. But anyways, I give during the study guide, you can read all the catalyzed positive bacteria that I'm talking about. If you have a case of this bacteria and some fungi, you may choose to use the highest concentration allowed for that type of microorganism, okay? Okay, so this is it for chemical groups. Do you have questions or comments? Something that, oh no, I use this product. I want to know if this is right or wrong because you've been using this a long time. Is everyone okay? Still alive? You close the cameras. I don't know if you're still alive or not. Someone is alive. Okay, thank you, Sad. Good. Let's talk a little about allergens. Cockroaches, pigeons, rodents, house dust mites. Oh, thank you for the thumbs up, Jonathan. Cats and pets, they will release allergens into the environment. Those allergens are basically proteins, okay? So what type of disinfectant should I use? Well. Bad news here is that most of the manufacturers will not test for allergens. But we do have studies saying that allergen releasing compounds will be partially effective against pets allergens, such as chlorine dioxide and sodium hypochlorite, which is bleach, okay, because that's the one they tested. We cannot apply bleach on a mattress or anything like this because you're gonna damage, right? So the key here for allergens is allergens are very, very sticky and hard to reach on porous surfaces. They will penetrate on porous surfaces and they will be really hard to get rid of. For example, you have a cat and you live in that residency and you decide to move out and you bring your cat with you. After 6 months that you left that house, you can actually see cat's allergens in there. It doesn't matter if the other person that bought your house or something they cleaned and disinfect in a daily basis. You're still going to find cat's allergens. They're very sticky, okay? And they penetrate into surfaces. So the key here for allergens is to remove, not to apply products. It's to remove. The best ways are to use HEPA vacuum. Remember that ones with good filters in a cross pattern methodology, which means that you're going to vacuum in all types of directions. If you, for example, later we're going to have protocols specific, for example, for dust mites. But just for you to understand, if you decide to remove dust mite allergens from that mattress, maybe you're going to spend a half an hour in your customer just by vacuuming. You need to go very slowly in a cross pattern, very detailed. Dry steam cleaning can be an option. It can be combined, okay, with allergen removal. We do have a training at TNI, at Insight Truly. It's a supplier presentation from Pulte. This is one equipment that uses dry steam. And this is very important for us when it comes from the microbial world. Do not use anything that is going to leave moisture behind, okay? Because dry moisture steam, those regular equipment that we can find everywhere, they are going, okay, you say, okay, but doesn't the heat kill all the microorganisms there? Not all of them, remember? You're always going to leave some of them behind. And once that water colds up, what happens is all, for example, the dust mites or bacteria that you left behind are going to start proliferate and multiply like crazy because they found moisture in there. So always make sure that you not leave any moisture behind. So you need to choose a good equipment. Yes, they're going to be more expensive, but that's the only way to go. If you cannot, only HEPA vacuum and gonna be okay. Toxins. The ones that are going to be important for us are going to be the mycotoxins, which are the ones that are released by mold. They are not only proteins as allergens, they belong to distinct chemical groups. Mycotoxins, finding a product that is going to work for all of them is going to be even more difficult than it is for allergens because they belong to these distinct chemical groups. So the key here for mycotoxins, as it is for allergens, is to clean and remove. Especially when you talk about mycotoxins, you need to clean and remove the mold stains and nearby areas. I will be talking about this on Friday. Although we do have some scientific studies showing that hydrogen peroxide, sodium hypochlorite, drysin, UVC lights, and ammonium chloride compounds, quaternary ammonium compounds, and boron-based products can work at certain extent to the main ones that we find indoors, okay? But again, let's not focus on products, but on methodology. You need to remove. The good thing about boron-based products is that you already use for pest control, right? So that can help. So we can combine here, and it can help, but it's not going to be you need to remove. Green products. You can refer to the EPA website, okay, where you can find, for example, those green products. They are designed for the environment products. But you can say, okay, Christian, but I cannot use EPA approved products in my country. That's okay. It's just for you to see if this product is going to be available in your country. For example, they have the entire list of green products, applications, see type, all-purpose cleaners, or well, toilet bowl cleaners. See, there are different applications for this product, so you need to respect that. Not all of them are going to be good for Nolen, but it's even if you cannot use them, you can start researching the active ingredient in your country, okay? And maybe you're gonna find that this product is also going to be green in your country. Follow your country's certification always, okay? So maybe this is going to be certified by EPA, but you need another type of certification for a green product. I advise you to start researching on this because that's the future, not only for this company, but for everyone, okay? So we need to go greener than you're used to. Of course, first of all, we need to apply the least amount of chemicals that we can, and also go green as much as we can, okay? Do not rely on the activity ingredients that you're gonna find either here in this training or at the EPA's website, okay? Because as I said, sometimes the manufacturer is going to add some inert ingredient that is not green in that product, so it's not going to be certificate for that. And always wear PPE. I don't mind, I don't care if the manufacturer is going to tell you, oh, you know, I can't drink this product. They do these crazy things. I have seen one of the manufacturers took the disinfectant and sprayed on his face in front of me. I said, see, this is not toxic. I said, okay, good for you. We are going to use PPE, okay? Always, it doesn't matter if it is green or not. For example, hydrogen peroxide, depending of the product, it can be considered green. But we know that we cannot be exposed to it while we are applying. But it's going to turn into water and oxygen, and it can be effective against all type of microorganisms depending on concentration, time, and methodology. Citric acid is also considered because there is no risk in regards to the environment or birth defects and also cancer. It's usually effective against gram-positive bacteria, gram-negative, enveloped, non-enveloped, and fungus. So it does have a broad spectrum of action, but it depends. You need to check with the manufacturer. Lactic acid, this is a bio-based product, which means that the same bacteria that we use to produce cheese and milk are going to be used to produce lactic acid. And it is generally recognized as safe, for the environment, people, and so on, okay? Very nice product. I like it. Usually, depending on the manufacturer, it's not going to be effective for too many types of pathogens, but gram-negative, enveloped viruses, yes. But a lot of times they will be combined with other ingredients, such as surfactants, and they will work better. They have a higher efficiency against other types of microorganisms, even non-enveloped viruses, which are tricky to kill, very difficult to kill. Okay, I like this one, lactic acid. Probiotic cleaners, these are also generally recognized as safe, so no risks whatsoever. Remember that I talked about those biological products yesterday? Yes. So the idea is, let's imagine that these red guys here are good bacteria, and this is a big army, a lot of bacteria will be applied, and they will fight against those bad bacteria, the ones here in black, okay? They will usually win that war because they are in a higher number. So they will compete for food, space, and everything. They will win that war, okay? I tend to like those products. I did find a scientific research telling me that it was good even against antibiotic resistant bacteria in a dental clinic. So these are very promising products, although they are relatively new in terms of the scientific knowledge. But if you find something in your country, let's work together. Bring me all the information you can, gather the information, and let's see if we can start working with this, okay? They can be effective again against gram-negative, gram-positive, and fungus. They do have a good residuality because the microorganisms are going to stay in there. So around 7 days, and then you need to reapply the products. I don't know. We do have a training from Professor Eduardo from Brazil. He talks about the food industry and the health risk related to the environmental contamination. It's in our websites at Inside Truly. You can access that as well. And I was talking to him, and he said, we had this probiotic yogurt type of yogurts in Brazil. And he said, I remember going to this food processing plant, and they had this big issue with biofilms and listeria, which is a really hard to kill bacteria. And then, not to kill, but to eliminate for sure. And then he said, okay, I can smell this probiotic yogurts. And they said, yes, because they were applying a product when he went there and said, okay, well, this is the product. This is the probiotic yogurts. We have been applying against Listeria, this biofilm forming bacteria, and it's been working. And do not advise you to do it. It's just that they did not have too many options at the time. But if you find a product that is well regulated, well controlled with probiotics, I advise you to go for it. Let's go together, bring the information. This is something different for you to provide your customer. Okay. Other options. As I said, blends where you're gonna have 2 or more active ingredients. I tend to like them because if you have any type of resistance mechanism against one of the active ingredients, you always have another one to fight that microorganism. So I tend to like blends a lot. And usually the concentration of each active ingredient is going to be lower. Terpenes. These are essential oils. They come from plants. They are allowed to be used. They have like low toxicity, no problem. Usually they have this citric smell or some type of good smell. But in a lot of countries, you're gonna see, the manufacturers saying that they are green products. They are not considered green active ingredients because they can react with other pollutants. They can release VOCs, remember? VOCs. They can sometimes can be a little bit irritating, but no problem to apply those programs. Not at all. It's just do not state that they are green because they are not actually considered green. Okay. For example, thymol and pine oil can cause skin irritation, and thymol is toxic to aquatic life. Again, you won't have problems because the toxicity is not that high. It's just this is not a green product. And terpenes tend to be expensive. Electrolyzed water, this is another option that you can look for in your country. I have seen franchisees doing very well in terms of disinfection or sanitization in their countries because they provide this type of uh, this different technology, and the customers tend to like because it's something new and everything. What it happens is that you have to purchase from one manufacturer that uses equipment. Usually they will use water and marine salts, the ones that comes from the sea. So they will have this equipment that is going to turn this into hypochlorous acid. But there are other types, and this is going to be the disinfectant that you need. But customers tend to like when you say that this is electrolyzed water. Okay. And these are usually not toxic or anything like this. It's another option if you find in your country. If you Google it, you're gonna see some portable equipment. They can say, or they are going to say, teach you on how to produce electrolyzed water at home. Please do not do this, okay? This is not for our residency or anything like this. You can need to buy from a manufacturer that has all the controlled conditions that we need and registration as well. We talked about these antimicrobial coatings yesterday. Yes, they can last on surfaces from months to years. They are not only very stable, but they will bind into those surfaces. Which means that if you scrub with regular cleaning activities, if you scrub, use a sponge, you wipe, this is not going to affect this product. It's going to still remain on the surface. And that's when you have this residual effect. This is not the same thing as a stable product because a lot of you sometimes you bring me some tests and say, and the manufacturer says, oh, it does have a residual effect, but is when I look at the microbial samples or the microbial tests, I can see that they are actually testing if that product is stable or not. It's not the same thing because a stable product, once you wipe the surface, you're gonna to just take it off, okay? But if you're not certain, bring it to me, I can tell. We do have a special conditions, commercial conditions with one manufacturer in the United States, but I'm guaranteed that if you're interested in this type of product, we can work for your country and so on, okay? The most well-known are the Sisquats, these are silane quaternary ammonia compounds. These are very well known, and this is the one that we have a special commercial conditions with. There are others, such as silver-based, copper-based, not a big fan because these are metals. And titan dioxide-based, you can find on the internet as well, but usually they need lights in order to be active. So, for example, you wanted to prevent mold to reoccur underneath any type of surface, it's not going to work well with this type of active ingredient because it doesn't work without lights. Okay. Questions here? Okay. I tend to like those products for mold prevention. I'm gonna be talking about this later. UV. We do have the sunlight, of course, will emit UV. UVB, UVA, and UVC. UVB is mostly absorbed by the ozone layer, but still you need to use like sunscreen, sunblocks in order to prevent cancer, skin cancer, right? So sun is good for our health, but at the same time it can cause you skin cancer. UVA is not absorbed by the ozone layer at all, so it's going to transpass this ozone layer. You need to use sunblock for that. And also this is the one that you use for insect traps. But when it comes if it comes to microorganisms, we are going to talk about the UVC. Okay, so they have a shorted wavelength here from 100 to 279 nanometers. And this one is going to be entirely absorbed by the ozone layer. So you cannot be exposed to UVC if you go outdoors, which is a good thing. Otherwise, we wouldn't have life on Earth, okay? Because this is the one that actually kills cells and microorganisms. So it's entirely absorbed. For us to use UVC, you need to use a lamp. And there are different types, and it depends on the wavelength, the distance from the objects, okay? That will impact on how effective they are going to be. The temperature, the organic material, if there is too much dirt in there, they will not transpass that dirt and you're not going to reach the microorganism that you want. And it depends on the exposure time. For coronavirus, for example, maybe a few seconds is going to be enough for them to be inactivated. But when it comes to a gram-positive, gram-negative bacteria, you can usually use 10 to 15 minutes of exposure. It doesn't penetrate on surfaces, and people cannot be directly exposed to it. Especially, it can be harmful to your eyes, and a long-term exposure can even cause you cancer, okay? If you're interested in this type of technology, usually the manufacturers will use this wavelength here, 254, that will not produce ozone, because some of them can produce ozone as a byproduct. And remember, it is a pollutant and we do not want to release that into the air. So most likely that shorter wavelengths below 240 are going to be the ones releasing ozone. But some manufacturers, they do have some other materials that they can add and to suppress this effect. So ask the manufacturer if the lamp produces ozone. Long-term exposure not only damage your skin, your eyes, but also some materials, such as plastic, polymers, and dyed textile. Some contain mercury. The main ones will contain, which may interfere with the disposal and accidental exposure. If you can avoid those, that's okay, but I'm not against you using them. So what are the lamps? Low pressure mercury lamp, these are the main ones that people use. Usually they do not produce ozone, as I said, they are very effective. But you also have LEDs, light emitting diodes lamps. I like them because they do not use mercury, so you cannot have any accidental exposure. It's more environmentally friendly. And they are usually smaller, and also they work better when you find the refrigerated chambers, for example. So in food processing plants, a lot of times you can find those chambers, and LED UVC is the way to go for them. I brought this one, pulsed channel lamps, but these ones we are not going to use, just for you to understand that they are there. They are usually used for other type of applications, not for microbial control indoor environments, although you can find sometimes in a hospital or something like this. Far UVC lamp. These one are a little bit different. The wavelength is a little bit shorter than the ones that are used for UVC. It may produce ozone, but again, this is not the main concern. One thing about this is that a lot of scientists have been researching on this lamp, and it seems that it can be safe uh, for people to attend that facility while you have UVC running. You turn it on, but we do not have enough data so far. Okay, so this is promising, but we do not know the effects in a long-term exposure, for example. So let's wait. Okay, I may change my mind, and the reason why I'm bringing this here is because some of you asked me about this lamp, and I think it's good for everyone to know that I may change my mind later, but right now I we do not have enough data to say, okay, this is safe enough for people to get it directly exposed it to. Okay, you can use it, but please, no one can attend the room. How to use it safely then? Inside air purifiers, usually I like when they are combined with HEPA filters. They help a little bit in terms of reduction of the microbial load in that HEPA filter. So once you're gonna to, clean that air purifier, you're not that exposed to microorganisms. So yes, you can have people attending the room if that UVC is enclosed inside an equipment, no problem. I don't want people being directly exposed. Inside HVAC systems, you're gonna see that as well. That is okay, no problem. It can help with the filters, but it will not work for all types of pathogens. I'm not a big fan of it because sometimes you can create some genetic modifications if the exposure time is not good enough for that microorganism. But okay, if I'm not totally against it anyways. I'm not against it for you to use it. And again, if you are going to have a direct exposure to surfaces, no occupancy whatsoever. It's a lot of in regards to UVC, but the main thing that I want you to remember for UVC is ask the manufacturer if it produces ozone as a byproduct, and do not expose people directly into UVC lights, okay? In UVC lamp. That's the main information that I want you to remember now, okay? Questions? You're okay about UVC? You're also gonna find standalone equipment in the market. This equipment, they work just like this. You have an equipment, it's an automized equipment. So basically you're gonna to leave the room, turn it on, and it's going to release the disinfectant that you want into the air. So you do not need to apply yourself. This sounds like good news, but there are some, it's still laborious for you to apply. I'm going to explain why. The good ones are going to be the ones that use particles less than 1 micrometer. Okay, they are very, very tiny and small, so they will reach those areas that sometimes we overlook while we are, or the cleaning staff overlooks when they are, cleaning or disinfecting surfaces. So they are very good for hospitals, clean rooms, and so on. But make sure that you find one that use a vaporized solution. They usually use hydrogen peroxide and sometimes silver ions in small concentrations. Silver is toxic and it can be accumulated in the environment. There are some resistance mechanisms reported, but in small concentrations, just to stabilize the hydrogen peroxide, I'm not against you using it. Just make sure you do not expose people like very often to that. One manufacturer does use hypochlorous acid, which can be a better option for you. It is laborious. Why is that? Why? Because, well, we need to isolate the entire room. Okay, it has to be real sealed. because you do not want to expose other occupants to hydrogen peroxide, vaporize it, and really tiny particles that will go deep inside your lungs. So you need to make sure that you isolate that room, and this can be very laborious. And also, you need to, after, I don't know, it depends on the manufacturer's instruction, but after half an hour, you need to go back there and measure the hydrogen peroxide concentration in the air to see if it is in a safe level. So it's not like you you know turn it on, you leave the facility, and then you come back after 2 hours and you are done. No, you need to monitor as well. They are good though. They are very good when you have an outbreak or some type of cleaning procedures not well done. I think they do work very well even for bacterial spores, and they are very expensive. The good ones are very expensive, but they are there. Air purifiers, HEPA filters are the ones that I like the most. They are very well validated. You can use with or without UVC, as I said before, and make sure that you change the filters properly using a PPE and according to manufacturer's instructions. So as I said, you can combine this filter changing with sanitization or product application or other type of protocol that you can, or even pest control when you go to a customer. Okay, so you can combine all those protocols. If you find other technologies in the market, please call me first. And yay, because they can release byproducts. They are fancy names around plasma technologies or whatever technologies. Just let's talk. I'm not against, but we need to have those tests showing that you're not going to release any type of byproduct, and you can, expose people to harmful substances. Ionizers, which means they are going to release ions into the air. They are they can react with oxygen and they can produce ozone, for instance. They are not really allowed because we consider ozone as a pollutant, and ozone generators as air cleaners, there's a big no. Okay, let's choose other technologies. Questions about air purifiers? You're gonna see me talking about them when I talk about any type of a microorganism that the airborne route, remember, when they travel like long distances, is going to be at concern. So mold spores, for example, sometimes I will be talking about them. Okay, this is not an option. No. Phenolic compounds, they are known to cause cancer. Wow, who uses that? You're in a hospital facility, you may find some places where they use because they need this high level disinfection, but it's not for us to use. Formaldehyde, known to cause respiratory and skin irritation, and is suspected to cause cancer as well. There's a big no for this one. Glutaraldehyde is also a skin and airway irritating agent and is not advised to be used as well. You're gonna see that in disinfectant formulas, we do not need to use them. Okay, you can find out other options. For UVC lamps or any UVC lamp when people is attending the facility, no. Ozone, as I said, ozone generators and ionizers, also no, okay, as technologies. Are we okay with technologies? Any questions, comments? We're doing good? Okay, let's talk a little bit about conversions and calculations. Sometimes you will need to dilute or convert at some point. A lot of times it's going to be stated on the label, but sometimes we will. So basically, 1 pp, 1 part per million, is equal 1 milligram per liter of solution. Okay, this is going to be the same thing. So to convert ppm or milligrams per liter to percentage, what should we do? If 1 ppm means 1 part per million parts of solution, Then how many parts percent, because we want to convert to percentage, do we have? You just cross multiply in a cross pattern here, and you're gonna find that uh, um, 1 ppm is a million, I'm sorry, one part per 1 million particles. Then how many is percent? So you're gonna have one at divided by 10,000. I'm just showing you how you got to that math. It doesn't have to be that complicated. You just need to divide. For example, if you have a 200 ppm and you want to convert to percentage, you just divide it by 10,000. Okay? I just showed where that math came from, but it's going to be 0.02%. This is equal to 200 ppm. If you want to go the other way around, you just multiply. So 1% is equal to 10,000 ppm. Okay? Sometimes you need to dilute and you don't know exactly how to do it. This is the formula for you to use. C1 plus, multiplied by V1 is equal to C2 V2, where C1 is the initial solution concentration, or the concentrate, the one that you're going to receive from the manufacturer. V1 is the volume that you want to know. That's the initial solution volume, and the C2 is the final solution concentration you need, and V2 is the final solution volume. Just to make it simpler, let's say, for example, you purchased a 5% solution, which is your initial concentration okay? You just put 5% in here, and you need to apply 1 liter of a 0.5% solution. The 1 liter is for you to choose, okay? I need 1 liter of final solution. I need 2 liters, depends on you. So you add 1 liter here because this is the final volume, and the final concentration is 0.5%, and you add in here, and you multiply and you divide, is going to be 0.1 liter. What does that mean? It means that the volume that you need to take from the initial solution, the 5% solution, is going to be 0.1 liters or 100 ml of the concentrate solution, and then you add 0.9 liters or 900 ml of water. Okay, if you have questions in terms of it, just let me know in the future. We can do it together. So how do we do? It's good for you to have a graduated cylinder. You purchase at eBay or Amazon, laboratory equipment, suppliers, and so on. So we are going to add, for this example, 100 ml here of the concentrate formula, and then you're going to go up to 1 liter. This is 10 ml. This is another type of graduated cylinder, but make sure you purchase a bigger one. So you go up to 1 liter, and then you have the final concentration you needed. Okay, most of the times you will have that information on the label, but I have seen some of you having, needing to calculate. Let's talk about equipment. Okay, we are allowed to use wipes and short scale sprayers. Just make sure you use a PPE, okay, because you do not want to get exposed. If you're, of course, you're doing like small areas, as I said, like a doorknob or something like this. But of course, in the field, you want to be more practical. And we have a lot of types of pieces of equipment that you can use for pest control. For example, these sprayers here, atomizers and also coastal sprayers. These one are better for pest control, okay? You can have problems with drippings, and we are doing like special applications, special, like entire areas applications. So you can have problems with drippings or damaging surfaces with this one. I advise you to use either ULV cold foggers or electrostatic sprayers. The one that I like the most are electrostatic sprayers, but I know that they can be more expensive, okay? ULV cold foggers, they will release tiny particles to the air. For the ones that have been using, you know that you create this fog, all right? And you need a full face mask or respirator in order to apply with this type of methodology. Okay, I don't want you, the technician, to get exposed to any type of product. You need to respect the contact time for that disinfectant. So make sure that the surface remains wet for the appropriate period of time. And also, the returning time to the facility is going to be long because these are tiny, tiny particles. They will remain airborne for a long period of time. So at least 2 hours, at least, okay, for people to go back to the environment. Electrostatic sprayers, I will be talking about them tomorrow. But anyways, they release bigger particles, and then you can assure that the surface is going to remain wet for a certain period of time that that your disinfectant need, and also the particles, the disinfectant particles will be attracted to the surface, and they will have this wraparound effect, so better coverage, and you're not getting that exposed to the disinfectant. Why is that? Because the particles will not remain airborne for a long period of time. They will be attracted to the surface. So less exposure to the technician and to people attending. So the returning time to the environment can be half an hour for this type of equipment. Okay, so they have a lot of advantages. They can be more expensive, but it is a good option. Mhm. You can also measure in terms of equipment, the coverage of your equipment, just to see if it's not really a very, how would I say, very detailed methods or anything like this, but you can use those water sensitive papers. They are yellow. And once you apply water or water-based disinfectants into it, you can see how the water droplets are going to behave, disinfectant droplets are going to behave on that paper. So you can actually see the coverage, if it is like, you can see if there are the particles are really different in size, or you can see some yellow parts in there. So it's not that you're having good coverage with that equipment. It's good for you to test your equipment and also how far you can go from the surface. Okay, this is one way for you to test the equipment. This is all from me today. Thank you so much.